very small, brief classes to bring out where is the presence of God. So the essence of God is everywhere. Equally, higher worlds, lower worlds, there's no distinction to the Ein Sof. There is distinction when it comes to the ray of light that comes. Now, the ray of light, higher world, be less of a garment that is concealing the light. And the lower world means there's more contraction, more concealment of the light. And therefore that's what makes physical world a physical world, because the light is so concealed that we can see things like a rock and think that they are not alive and vibrant with the Word of God that animates it. We can have that perspective. Not so in the spiritual realm. There's nothing there inanimate. Everything's alive and vibrant and aware of its source. Some more, some less. Higher angels, lower angels, greater souls, lesser souls, and so on and so forth. But there's the in-between. How do you get from the essence of God to an eye that can see, an ear that can hear, is the ray of light in the soul, meaning that there's a rock down here, a human being up here, souls up here, the greater and the higher and the lower. That is, in the metaphor, we have the brain of, where there is the first place of the revelation of that essence of the soul is in the brain, in an undiluted, undiffused manner. And in creation, that is Malchus. That is a manifestation of the Ein Sof by way of the divine intelligence. It is the full-fledged manifestation, as we explained yesterday at great length, this concept of the divine presence. It's called Shekhinah, therefore. It's like the sun. Now, the essence of God is beyond a sun. The sun is already, the undiluted, undiffused revelation of the essence of God, of Ein Sof. Again, metaphorically, the sun. From there, we need the rays of light that now that the Malchus needs to come down, and this is where the challenge is. This is where the difficulty is, because the ray of the sun is so powerful that if it's the creative force, the Word of God, as the King rules with His Word, it is going to be too powerful. So it needs to be what we call in a garment. A garment, covers up, in order that the ray shouldn't be so powerful, in order that we shouldn't be nullified and become like a ray of light within the sun. Because we can't get directly from the Shekhinah, from the divine presence of God. Right? Why? Again, because it's too powerful of a light. So it needs to have a garment that now, so what's that garment? And what's that garment that's going to be the protective? It's almost like the ozone layer is the protective, part of the sun, that we are not, being burnt away by the sun. But even the ozone layer, we're still 93 million miles away. So, but imagine the sun, the Shekhinah is what's responsible for the creation of everything. Malchus of Atzilus, the word of, which is Word of God. How is it that it is now not, how is it allowing us to be created? That we'll be able to conceal the Shekhinah, the divine presence. Because otherwise, if it wasn't concealed, it would be completely nullified within its light. So Alter Rebbe explains that's by the divine will and wisdom of God, that it serves as a garment. And what is that divine will and wisdom? It's Torah and Mitzvahs that are revealed to us down here. Because Torah issues from the wisdom of God, Chachma, Ilah, supernal wisdom, right, which is Chachma Batzilus, and it is immeasurably higher than the Shekhinah, because the Shekhinah is the 10th level, Malchus of Atzilus. Chachma is the first, so it's greater. And God's wisdom, which is in His Torah, is one with God. Is one with God. And this wisdom is one with God. Therefore, we say that He is wise, but not with a noble wisdom, because our wisdom is not like His wisdom. So it's not like we get to know it through that. So, well, then it becomes the question, though, if this serves as a garment because it's greater, so therefore it has the force. Now, since it's greater, and it has to be something greater in order to be able to serve as a garment to conceal, right? In other words, it's not something lesser that's concealing, it's something, a greater power that is concealing. So we're saying that it is the Torah and Mitzvahs, which is the divine will and wisdom of God. But then that becomes a problem. If it's greater than even the Shekhinah, the divine presence of God, so then if that is the garment that is containing that power of the Shekhinah, that is too powerful for us, that we would be through it created, well then if this is even greater than that, then why are we not through the act of creation being nullified by this power of Torah and Mitzvahs that is, again, the divine will and wisdom of God that's even greater than the Shekhinah, the Malchus of Atzilus? I hope that question is clear. So the Alter Rebbe explains that it's only because the supernal wisdom of Torah has descended by obscuring gradations from higher to lower that it comes down into this world, and it's clothed in material things, which are the 613 commandments. So it's enclosed in a lulav and a tefillin, in the mitzvah of tzedakah that you're doing with a physical coin. So even though it's got such a power, but it's in the physical reality, so therefore it has been contracted and it's obscuring its power, and therefore can serve as a garment in the act of creation, to be a garment to conceal the presence of God in the act of creation. Let's try to unpack this a bit. Something powerful over here. We're trying to understand God's presence. That's where we're trying to go with this. And it's a slow process of each day, a small little tidbit we're getting of knowledge. The tidbit today in understanding. Where is the presence of God today? Where is it in general in the world? So the essence of God is everywhere equally. But that's not presence. That's concealed. Presence means something that is there that you're aware of, that you can be aware of, be conscious of. The essence of God, the Ein Sof, beyond. Okay. Then we have as God is a minimal ray of light in this world that makes a stone. It's so reduced, that light, so concealed, that we look at the rock and we think it's not alive. So you don't say the presence of God is there. Is God there? Of course it is. But presence means in its power, in its revealed manner. So where is it above in the spiritual world? Where is it coming from, that presence? It's going to come through Malchus of Atzilus, that is a manifestation, as we called it, the world of revelation. We called it the queen. We called it the nether mother. We called it Shekhinah, divine presence. Right? Divine presence. Right? You don't need to pay attention to everybody what they're right. Pay attention to the teachings of Tanya. That's more important. So that presence is going to come the way the presence is above. So it's going to filter down here. Malchus of Atzilus. Now, so the difficulty with Malchus of Atzilus, and how do we understand the process of how that presence is going to be down here? So, being that it is like the ray, it's like the sun, not the ray of light, but the sun itself. From that sun, how are you going to get now a presence of God down here? Well, you can't have it because that sun is too powerful to be present here, because it will nullify us. We'll be consumed in that sun, being a ray of light within the sun. So it needs something in the process on how it's the creative power to create me, you, a world, worlds. And it needs to be a garment to conceal it. What is that garment? What is it? Something that's greater than it, that can be a force that can contain it, conceal it. That's the divine will and wisdom of God, which is Torah Mitzvahs. But then it becomes greater. If it's greater, then how can it have that power concealing it? Isn't it going to be even greater than the sun then? Which Torah Mitzvahs is greater than the sun. So then isn't that going to be, if that's the power of God, that's the energy of God, that is a creative force, and isn't that going to burn us up, so to speak? Or nullify us, that we're like nothing? So the answer is, because it's Torah Mitzvahs, the way it's in the physical reality of this world, that power of the will and wisdom of God is in the physical reality, and it's obscuring. Ultimately, it's clothed in it. So therefore it can be the power of containment, of concealment of the divine presence of God. One side note about this is, as we explained actually yesterday, but now it brings out even more so, as we understand how Torah Mitzvahs is the filter that the presence of God and the power of God to create, and here we're talking presence of God as the power of creation, is filtered through Torah Mitzvahs, funneled through Torah Mitzvahs, meaning that the vitality of this world is through Torah Mitzvahs. And physical vitality. And hence, when I had a bad back in many years, over 30 years ago, I was flat on my back for 2 weeks. And I wrote to the Rebbe asking for a bracha. And the Rebbe told me to check my tefillin mezuzahs. Oddly enough, I had just checked them 3 months earlier. But the Rebbe says to check them. You know what you do? Check them. Took to a different scribe and found problems with some of my mezuzahs. Got them fixed. Guess what? My back got very much better. Now, what has healing got to do with a mitzvah? Well, because it's the life force of God, that is the Shekhinah, the divine presence, the Word of God. It comes from Malchus of Atzilus, that is garmented. A garment over here that we said, right, of the divine will and wisdom of God, which is Torah mitzvahs. So it is, so to speak, filtered or funneled through Torah mitzvahs. So Torah mitzvahs is going to be the life force of everything in creation, since it's filtered through it. So therefore, check your tefillin mezuzahs, and that will bring you physical healing, because actually physical healing comes from God. It'll be funneled through the Word of God via the Torah mitzvahs into this world and bring new divine energy that will be a healing energy rather than flat on my back for 2 weeks. Just to bring out that idea, which is very powerful. Questions, comments, thoughts? Davida has a question. I think you're going to have to ask it again. Because, oh, no, I see it here. Is this why there was a curtain in the Holy of Holies? Very good, you're right. The curtain was a divider. What's a curtain do? It divides between one level of holiness and another level of holiness. So that represents that idea. Very good, Davida. Yes, absolutely correct. Lori, how was God revealed in the world before the Torah was given? Well, through the patriarchs. So then it was revealed in a way that human beings could strive to become as humanly great and capable as possible. That's what happened. Now we can become divine, not just great in human capacity, but far and above and beyond that. Michael, please share.
Is this with the divine light, and when it's not filtered, the reason why, when it's too strong, why Aaron's son died?
Yeah. That would. Yep. That's why the Holy of Holies, it ties in with Denise's, Davida's question. The curtain between the Holy and the Holy of Holies, because that's a greater degree of light that is illuminating in the Holy of Holies. And if that light, if it's a light not meant for you, so then it becomes something that, is destructive. Yep, exactly. Very true. Rachel has a question. When we study Torah and do mitzvahs, does the divine presence help or allow us to have understanding beyond the average human level? That's no doubt about that, for sure. But we're going to see where we're going with this. But yes, absolutely true. Very true. Tyler, or I think, does evil exist because God's contraction emptied space for it? Exactly. Evil exists because God contracts himself to such a degree that they're seemingly, just like in the rock, we feel it's inanimate and it's not alive. It is alive with the Word of God that's animating it every single moment, something from nothing. It's pulsating with the Word of God, something from nothing every moment. So evil means that we don't recognize and we feel that there's an absence of God, and therefore there's a space for me being outside of God, or something anything being outside of God. That by definition is evil. Excellent question. All right, folks, I just remind you, I'm going to open up in about 5. I'll open up right away, but we won't start right away. Rambam. We do Rambam every single day after Tanya. And we're starting actually the laws of Avodah Zorah, of idolatry, what is considered idolatry. And I invite you all to come and join on Zoom. 770-770-6085 is the Zoom address. Hold on. That's what it is. And hold on. I'm putting it up on Facebook. Okay, I just put it up. So you can come, it's a direct link. I can't do that. If someone can do that on Instagram, give a direct link. That's amazing. So you can come and join. I'm going to open up in a few moments. In any case, most importantly, a good Chodesh to everybody. We'll continue with our questions and everything, God willing. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you for Chabad Zich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a wonderful day, a good Chodesh, and all good things.
Thank you, Rabbi Fine.
Thank you. Oops. Thank you, folks. Come and join us.